Okay, it's 5:30. I'd like to begin this caucus session of our council. We have two items for action this evening under new business, and being two ordinances. Are there any recommendations, changes, or additions to the agenda as presented this evening? Actually, we're going to add item C. We're going to add two to go into executive session, and I'm going to need a motion for that. If there's anything else? I would like to call this April 1st, 2015 council meeting to order. Would you please stand for the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Here.
Okay, you've all received one set of minutes from the March 25th regular council meeting. Are there any revisions to those minutes?
I have none.
If not, they stand approved and on record. Under reading of communications, Mr. Tisch?
I have none.
Mr. Rogers?
I have none.
Mr. Morvay?
No, I don't have any.
Mayor Kosar?
I have none.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes, just two items. I was notified this afternoon that ODOT is going to make the switch over to 2 lanes this evening. They're starting at 6 o'clock this evening to start the work and the striping to have the permanent temporary work completed. What they're doing is switching phases, though. Initially, they were going to start, phase 1 was to have traffic on the south side of the bridge while they worked on the north because of some utility issues. They're going to start with traffic on the north side of the bridge and start working on the south end of the bridge removal. That again is taking place this evening at 6 o'clock, and they hope to have everything in place and ready for traffic at 8 a.m. or 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So anticipating chaos up there. It hasn't gone well to this point. And one other item that just came to my desk, there was a resident that lives, it's actually a new resident in the community on Laurel Hills. They left the hose on during the winter, and it must have frozen, stayed frozen through the winter, and the last month, when Glenda went out to read the water meter, their consumption was up about 124,000 gallons. The actual reading was 186,000, but based on their normal consumption. We reduced that down to 24,075 gallons of water. She did go back out to the house when we noticed there was a high bill, contacted the owners. They couldn't find anything in the house. When she went around back, there was a huge icing problem. They had the hose, and they had determined must have stayed frozen, and when it thawed out, just started letting water loose, and the whole back of the house, the back part of the house and the backyard was one big ice rink. So we do know the water went outside. It didn't go through the sewer. What they're asking is that that amount minus what they would normally use on the sewer bill be relieved. I talked to the county sanitary engineer, and they would make an exception for that. That would be their portion of the bill if we would do the same thing on our portion of the bill. And basically it amounts to $889 of forgiveness, of which $568 would be from the county and $321 would be from the city. So totally up to council whether you want to do that or not. And again, we have done that on a couple of occasions when there was evidence and proof that it didn't go into the sanitary sewer system.
The county is not going to charge us for any portion of that sanitary sewer?
They'll give us a credit for the $568. That's correct.
Okay, so, but we still are picking up a portion of the cost.
Yeah, our share, what we would bill for our service would be $321. So that's what I'm saying. We would
but that's for the sanitary.
That would be the loss. No, that would be the loss from the sanitary fund of the city. The $568 would be what the county would relieve.
For the sanitary, though.
For sanitary, just sanitary, yeah.
How much the water bill, Jim?
They're paying the total amount of the water.
Which was what?
I didn't calculate that.
Somebody's paid for water.
Yeah, it'd be a little, actually be a little, just slightly less than what the sanitary
Okay,
sewer.
so they're going to pay for the whole portion of the water.
Yes, they recognize, they use the water. I mean, there's no question that water went through their meter.
Okay.
They're just asking for some relief, and that would be the water that didn't go through the sewer system.
Okay, I see your point.
Which we would forgive $321.
Yes.
That's the amount that we grant.
And we would get...
We're
we would
forgiving
get-
that, but is the county also?
The county would give us a
credit?
credit on our sanitary bill of $568.
So we're still paying 324.
Right, that would be the
So
amount that we
the
would have.
324 is still being shared by all the residents of the city.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm not in favor of that.
We ran the
This would
same
be
issue.
precedent setting.
Sure it would be, absolutely.
We have a real potential problem. I happen to have a sprinkler system, have the second meter and all that kind of good stuff. But if you don't service that in the fall, my son Bernie forgot to service one year, and he had an ice rink second to none. It just ran and ran and ran. So
I'm fine with giving the credit for whatever the county will give us, but I don't think that we ought to pick up
That's my
a
point.
portion of the cost.
I agree with that too also. We can't curb that. We can't do that.
Is it county's credit?
County's portion would be $889.61. Oh, I'm sorry, $568.26.
But that's not predicated on us getting our credit, right? They'll do that.
No, they'll do that.
Regardless.
They've agreed to do that if we have the evidence, which we do have, that it went outside.
All right.
my fear is it becomes precedent setting, and we got so many sprinkler systems in the city.
Right.
That could be horrific.
It sure will be.
We want to vote on that?
I have to agree.
Yeah, no, I agree too. I think we take the credit we get from the
county.
county.
That's it.
Okay. Other than that, we just have the two items on the agenda this evening. Or actually, that's under, that's all I have under correspondence.
Okay, under reports of committees, city managers, and department heads, Mr. Rogers,
I have nothing.
Mr. Morvay.
Yeah, just like Joe had said, the road will be officially closed this evening, well, down to one lane, 224, the bridge. And so the fire district has made provisions. You'll read about it in the paper tomorrow, where we have set up independent companies, if you will, on the other side of the bridge, this side of the bridge, that'll each will take care of east and west. And so Hutch has that all figured out. I don't have any of the details, so we'll have to read about it tomorrow. And if we have any concerns, you're welcome to call the chief. The ambulance is up and running. If anybody would like to go and look at it, they're welcome. Take a tour. And again, it's nothing more than a backup vehicle so that we can make sure that we have response times that are acceptable. And that's it. I think that's it.
John,
Yeah.
one question for you too. The ambulance, what station is that going to be housed at? Number one house, new house?
Well, it's here, and I believe it's going
It's
to
going to stay out of one house the whole time, not two or not go back and
Correct.
forth or whatever. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Kuzma?
I don't know if Joe or Mark is talking about this, but Joe and I attended the trustees meeting last evening, and the judge was approved, and the next step is it's going to the county commissioners. Very smooth.
Good. Very good. Okay. Is that it? Joe?
Okay, we have two items to deal with this evening, legislation, both dealing with the police department. And the first one being the declaration of Police Department and Public Works, the declaration of surplus property. There's 3 vehicles, I believe, from the Police Department and 1 from Public Works where you can declare salvage. And the second item would be the purchase of the 2 police cruisers as per our approved budget for this year. And that's basically all we have to attend to this evening. Todd?
For the month of March, we had 7 water main repairs. Since the last meeting, the guys have been busy repairing and replacing street signs. We've started to rebuild some basins and some manholes that we've had issues with because of the freezing and thawing in the winter. We've been cutting brush along the roadways, and we've pretty much got the heavy debris cleaned up from the curb streets.
Christine?
I sent the budget that was approved last meeting into the Mahoning County Auditor's Office and revised the Certificate of Resources. I should get back my certificates from the county shortly on that. The state auditors will be finishing up their cash basis testing next week. They will return sometime after June 1st when I have the gap basis reports done and finish up the audit for 2014 at that time.
Chief?
With the 224 road construction going on, we're working together with the Highway Patrol and the Sheriff's Department, but I think it's important for everyone to realize that the majority of that intersection, 224 and Fairground, is outside of our jurisdiction. The Highway Patrol is going to focus on that, but we'll assist them with that. We were in the meeting yesterday, and we discussed a few things that were important to us, and that was to make sure that people do not clog up our intersections. When the light turns red, make sure you obey that traffic light. Clogging up that intersection is only going to impede the problem further. And if they do choose alternate routes, whether it be in the city or the township, to please respect the residential speed limits.
Ted?
In March, I had a permit issued for an awning at 64 Cardinal Drive, an addition at 431 Shadydale, a siding at 144 Indian Lake Boulevard, an addition at 142 Oak Tree Drive, an addition at 390 Shadydale Drive, a shed at 228 Fairview Avenue, 2 signs, one for Cardinal Drive, one for Get Go, and 1 garage sale permit, and valuation is $87,800.
I'll reserve my report for executive session.
Okay.
Mr. President? A question, if we could. Mr. Guarino, in light of budget being approved and that kind of thing, I was wondering if we might have prepared for members of council on a monthly basis a summary of where we stand financially, both revenue estimates and expenditure estimates. As close as the budget was this year, I think that would help the city council be on top of those kinds of things.
Yeah, we've accomplished that on a quarterly basis. Can we do that on? Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Under persons desiring additional information from department heads, I ask that you step forward to the podium, state your name and address clearly for the record, and keep your questions to 3 minutes maximum per person and no more than 30 minutes total. Your questions must only pertain to each department head's report this evening. Okay.
Good evening, I'm Frank McKee. I'd like to ask a question of the finance director. Could you explain what is a certificate of resources? That doesn't...
That's what they call the revenue.
Oh, where the certificate showing where the city's monies are coming from?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Anticipated revenue for the year.
They could have given it a little simpler name, but I like the simple
I
name.
know.
Thank you.
Under recognition of persons desiring to speak before council, I ask that you step forward to the podium, state your name and address clearly for the record, and keep your comments brief. Frank?
Good evening, I'm Frank McKee. I reside at 220 Glenview. You may recall the last meeting I brought up the subject of damage to the right-of-way in front of my home, but many other addresses have had the same experience. it was said that it would be very expensive for the city to start making repairs and maintaining individuals' property in the right-of-way. But the right-of-way does not belong to any individual's property. Let's be clear, the property belongs to the city. The city controls what can and cannot happen to this property. A property owner has no say as to what the city may do or may not do within that 10-foot right-of-way. It was suggested that there is a section within the codified ordinances that makes the property owners responsible for the right-of-way. I've read section 1387 and find no such thing. I would hate to be the person to defend in front of a judge that I am required to maintain somebody else's property. What's next? Am I going to have to be responsible to wash the city manager's car? Just joking, of course.
That's a reach, right?
That's a reach. I'm just
Right, it needs
joking. In summation, the right-of-way is city property. In looking at 1387.13, exterior property areas, I quote, "No owner," I repeat, no owner, operator or resident of any premises shall maintain or permit to be maintained at or on exterior property areas of such premises any condition which deteriorates or debases the appearance of the neighborhood, reduces property values in a neighborhood, adversely affects the appearance and general character of the neighborhood. It seems to me that damage to the right-of-way fits that bill, and that is the city's property. The bottom line, I'm going to ask Mr. Warino for the record, is the city going to maintain their property in the right-of-way in front of my home and other residences? These rules apply to everybody. May I have that property?
Actually, the 1387 and other provisions of the code do not apply to the city, just so you're aware. The city is immune from the application of its own ordinances. But go ahead, Mr. Warino.
No, again, we have no intention of repairing the damage that was done in that area.
If I may ask, why don't these apply to the city? Is there
Ohio law, Frank, like the zoning ordinances, etc. The city doesn't need to comply with its ordinances.
Is that true? I think
I'm not lying.
I didn't hear what you said.
I'm not lying to you.
He's an attorney.
Not to you, anyway.
I'll leave that untouched. Thank
That's
you.
Under old business, there is none. New business. Under new business, as per the provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that the council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorize it by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mayor? Discussion? There being none, would the clerk please call roll?
Mr. Dragon?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
And as provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorize reading by title only.
Second.
Two readings. That should be the two readings.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll restate it. As per the provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of two readings of the proposed ordinance and authorize adoption of the same upon its first reading.
Second.
Mr. Rogers? Discussion? Call roll, please.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
Mr. President, I have an ordinance declaring surplus property and authorizing for its disposal. I move for passage of this ordinance.
Second.
Mr. Morvay?
These three vehicles are police, and then the one is the truck from the maintenance.
correct.
And so now, what will we do? Put these up for auction, or how do we dispose of them?
In the past, we've used them as trade-in.
I see.
Any public comments? The clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kozar?
Yes.
Mr. Morve?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
The number is?
2015-11.
Thank you. And as per the provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorize it by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morve. Discussion? The clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kozar?
Yes.
Mr. Morve?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
And as per the provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of 2 readings of the proposed ordinance and authorize adoption of the same upon its first reading. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Rogers. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kozar?
Yes.
Mr. Morve?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
Mr. President, I have an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase police vehicles and equipment. I move for passage.
Second.
Public comments? The clerk, please call the roll.
Can I just,
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
do you think, Chief, or we'll have any kind of grants this year for police vehicles? I mean, I know we have in the past. I know we're purchasing here too, but is it possible that we could, not grants, but I think one of the dealerships actually donated cars to the city.
Yeah, there's nothing on the radar at this particular point, but if that opportunity affords itself, we can take advantage of it, absolutely.
Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kozar?
Yes.
Mr. Morve?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
And the number is?
2015-12.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session to consider the sale of property, after which we will then reconvene this meeting for the purposes of adjournment. I move for passage.
Second.
Mayor, second.
Discussion.
Discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kozar?
Yes.
Mr. Morve?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
Yes.